Hello,
Hey.
hello, 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 hello.
Hey.
Has it been
Hey.
a full month? No.
It's been
Almost.
just about a
Just
month
about.
since we've recorded because
Things happened.
I hadn't it wasn't Christmas yet.
It was close, and then Scott was
It's
going.
been just under a month, I think. It's been like 3.5 weeks.
And I felt it.
Maybe. And Script Babies, so much has happened.
So much has happened. Unprecedented things.
So just so you Script Babies are aware, the last one, this is going to come out like later. You're going to hear this in the future, but like we were recorded like mid-December, and right now it is like second week of January, or is it the
20th?
It's the 20th of January.
It does feel more like the second week of January, I agree, but I'm looking at the date right now. It's the 20th.
So since we last saw each other, I mean, we've had the holidays. LA has nearly almost burned down. It's been the craziest fucking shit to live through.
Horrifying, terrifying, so
heartbreaking,
sad.
Like
it's
stress-inducing, and they're still burning.
They're
as
still
of
burning.
Now.
Yeah, it's
air quality ain't great.
No.
Script Babies, it's been insane.
It's been insane.
I'm sure you've seen and heard about it, and if there's still any questions left, yes, it's as crazy as you thought it was.
Yeah, truly. And like just the obsessive, like checking the apps to see like where the fire is, if the winds, where the whatever. And it's like, the craziest thing I remember reading was like, every single person knows at least one person who lost everything. Like
usually multiple.
Usually multiple. Yeah. And it's like,
it's crazy.
And like we talked about, like some of our favorite areas, like not that actually matters, but like it was legitimately some of our favorite areas, which made it particularly disturbing and like just horrifying. And it's like everyone was affected in one way or another. It's either your air quality and you're trying to figure out, if it's safe to be breathing, or you're literally worried about your house burning down, and it's awful.
Or your house literally did burn down. It's insane. But yeah, the reason there's been such a long break is because the day we were going to record this episode back in December, the very day even, I felt a little tickle in my throat, and we just thought maybe it'd be safe in case I'm sick. Carly was going to be alone while her husband was away to see his family for the holidays. So like, let's not get Carly sick when she's alone with a baby. And then it turned out to have a fuck-ass terrible fucking flu, you guys. It was
ill.
Fucked. All the classic flu symptoms plus like insane stomach things. And I guess a lot of people had this same kind of flu. It fucking sucked.
And we were like pumped to do this episode. Pumped. We were so pumped. And then it was like, quick pause. And then it was like, oh my God, you're so sick. So glad we didn't do it. But then like holidays.
Yep.
Then it was it just one thing after the next. And then the fires really made us go like, we need to take care of our well-being and our loved ones.
There was like no way I could mentally even excitedly talk about a film at all.
And it's weird because
much less the moral implications of that while our city's burning.
Well, but like even now it's a little strange, but I feel like because it feels now like it just shows how adaptable we are as people, because it's like it's become a new norm that feels very weird.
Yeah.
But we've all adapted to this next level, and obviously in different levels. If you're displaced, it's a whole other damn thing. So I will say but
human adaptability is kind of a beautiful thing.
Absolutely, for sure.
It's wild to see, because like at the job I work at, Script Babies, I don't know if you know, but I work at a dog grooming salon. I don't do the dog grooming, but I do all the front of house stuff there, all the administrative, like day-to-day stuff. And our boss donated a couple like baths to some people who lost everything, and their dogs were really dirty and like stress shedding and stuff.
God.
And the strength of the people coming in who just lost everything, and the humility and just like the optimism, but really just like that get through it, keep going spirit was really beautiful. And like, it's really like, there's a sense of like people coming together, which is amazing. Cause so often in LA, especially if you're not from here, like Carly and I have both been here for over 20 years. Yeah. We've been here for a long time. We basically grew up here, but it's not our original home. No. But like, so often you can feel like, oh, fuck LA. Like there's no culture here. There's no community here, but there is.
And it's also projected onto LA so much that it's easy when you've been here long enough to like sometimes be like feel a little checked out on it. But I remember seeing a video like right before the fires happened where she was saying like it was a girl who lived in New York actually, and she was saying like I could never be annoyed at tourists coming to a place that I'm fortunate enough to live at and like marvel in all of its beauty. And I remember thinking like, oh, that's a perspective I'd like to carry about Los Angeles because it's nowhere's perfect and it obviously has its flaws, but like without a doubt, seeing the way the community came forth, and also too like this idea where I think a lot of people who've never been here have this idea that it's only the most rich, wealthy people when like the majority of this state is working class people who are like job to job, all this. And like either way, we should all be able to tap into empathy for people who lose everything. But again, like I feel like it was poking holes in this idea that it was like only mansions were burnt. It's like, no, dude, we're talking about all communities, like Altadena, like all these places where like people had no idea. And I hope that like, you know, some people learned a thing or two, but at the same time, seeing the way people have come together has been, I think, the silver lining of a absolutely hideous, heinous situation.
And a reminder to like it for me, I think you also probably felt this too, just knowing you, was like a reminder of how much I do fucking love LA.
Yeah, 100%.
And how much like I've taken it for granted as well. In the community of LA for granted. And just like this recentering of like, no, this is a really special place. And it's been wild. And then on a different note, we just lived through the 5-second TikTok ban that feels so weird.
So weird.
So icky.
So ick. But again, as per the usual, all of the screenshots you have sent me of people in the comments on TikTok have been so spot on when they're like, it feels like a toddler when they hand you something back and it's sticky. I was like, that
one killed me.
An absolute read.
Truly.
Because you're like, oh, thank you for this back.
Maybe you can have that back.
You can have that back. That, I don't know how that used to be my fave app. And now I really, really feel weird about it. I haven't been on it since. I just feel weird. So I don't know.
I've scrolled a couple times, but not as long as I used to. And just, it feels weird. And a lot of people are talking about how they feel weird about it too.
Yeah. I'm like, there was a part of me, I will say I was bummed. But then when I accepted for a second, when I thought it would actually be banned for more than 3 seconds, I was also like, you know what? This just means it's time to touch some more fucking grass and read some more fucking books and write and enjoy my friends. And all of a sudden it came back and I was like, oh, wait, I liked that new feeling and I don't know that I want. All of a sudden I felt like the kind of a weight of a scroll again. So that's interesting.
It is interesting.
We'll see what
also like the whole like idea of like the government like taking something away from you and like being so ever present in our lives. Segue.
That's a good segue.
Has a lot of crossover with the film that we're doing today, which is multi-layered in its messaging. But that is a massive through line.
And I would say layered in its messaging from script also to screen.
Yes.
Which I'm excited to convey. So without further ado.
Tell them.
Welcome to Script Daddy, babies. Welcome to Script Daddy.
Where we read the script, watch the film, and discuss the differences between what's on the page and what's on the screen. I forgot my little spiel, people. It's been a few weeks.
It's all right. We're getting back. What?
Wait, script babies. You will have already seen these. Sorry, we will get into this. You will have already seen these, script babies. But we did a photo shoot for promo images for this, and it was
everything.
Colin
and I always laugh that like we're best friends and we have so few pictures together. And yet we like looked at each other after the shoot and we were like, this might have just made up for all of the lack of photos that we have together because they're all the things. I couldn't love them more. And I
couldn't love them more either.
And then you had the brilliant idea that like each season we might, do a little
different little themed shoot.
It was so much fun. We both were like just in awe of like how easy it flowed and how much fun it was.
And you know what? To toot our own horns, bitch, we still got it.
Bitch, we still got it.
I will be 36 in 2 weeks. Ooh! And she still got it.
Oh, are you kidding? The amount of photos when I was going through them, I was literally like screaming, crying, throwing up. I was literally like Scott, look at him. Look at him. Like there's like 6 I want to frame like of you and just like have in my house scattered throughout. Like it's like more than I can handle. So anyway, you will have seen those by now, but we're very proud of them. We're very excited about them.
It's been a lot of ups and downs the past few weeks.
A lot of ups and downs.
And I feel very honored and lucky to be able to come back and do this podcast.
I feel the same way.
For any listeners, I'm honored that you guys listen to us. Thank you. And yeah, it really, another thing I realized taking this break and then all the things that happened during that break was how much this time of us doing this really means to me.
I felt the exact same
and
way.
like what a respite it is for me from my daily life. And it's just, yeah.
Well, it also reminded me too of just like the power of art in general, where like when we were talking about scheduling this again, I had that feeling of like a little quick sensation of guilt where I was like, should we be doing this while this is also, and I was like, well, things have at least calmed and settled a little bit. But also I was like, this is part of how people get through it and push forward, is listening to the things that bring them joy. And so I was like, for that sense, like what did we all lean into during the pandemic? Like art more than anything ever. So it's like, I feel like there's a privilege to it and a responsibility that like, if you can, you should, and we can. And so it feels really special to do it.
Period.
Okay, so now that we've foreplayed what movie this is, we're going to get right to it. It's Minority Report.
Bum, 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 bum.
Minority Report came out in 2002. The director was a little indie director named
you might know a few things.
The old Steven Spielberg. God bless him. I'm not gonna lie, I forgot it was him.
I did too.
And then at the end I was like, oh, that's right.
But it made so much sense.
It made all the sense. But I did for a second.
He really
forget.
is like, I mean, duh, this is obvious, but like, I mean, he really is incredible.
He really is incredible.
Steven Spielberg.
I mean, his resume.
I think he's going somewhere.
I think he's got a real future in this industry. But like, I mean, he really truly has one of the most impressive, incredible, and interesting career. Like, hello.
Yeah.
So the writers were Scott Frank and John Cohen. They adapted it from a novella by Philip K. Dick from 1956.
Which I started listening to on the way over here, by the way.
What do you mean you started listening to? Oh, like an
Audible. It's only an hour.
Side note, really fast, quick gripe. I've been paying for Audible for 3 months and didn't know. So,
well, that means you have 3 credits.
I know.
So get
you
those
need
books,
to,
baby.
You got to give me some titles, because at first I felt betrayed, and then I was like, no, this is an opportunity. This is a good thing. But I did feel a little shooketh. Anyway, continue. You've been listening.
I've been listening. I'm like 20 minutes in. It's only an hour and a half.
Oh yeah, because it's like a little beep bop.
It's really interesting. It's very interesting.
Oh, I'm very curious how that applies to.
You know what else is interesting?
What?
Is that Script Babies, the version of the script we read is the OG draft that got it sold, which is a first for us.
And I have to say, like, I do wish we could always read the thing that gets it sold, because there is something.
It's wild,
and also I feel like so educational about it too. Like, I'm excited to get into that, but I just
in that version of the script, that first like iteration of it, the only writer credited on the page is John Cohen. But in the movie, they're credited as Scott Frank and John Cohen, like A-N-D, and so that means they wrote it together, which is very interesting.
Very interesting.
I would love to know the process of development for this.
Me
like,
too.
When did Tom come onto it? Because that shot the budget through the fucking roof.
I have a little bit of trivia I'll dive into in a moment. I not too much, because I feel like there's a lot to get into, but I think it might not answer all of it, but I agree. Like, when you read the script and then you watch the movie, literally the main feeling you have is like,
holy shit.
Like, what were the conversations that got from A to Z?
And also, thank God those conversations happen.
For sure.
But it's so interesting. That's why I was so interested in, like, when I saw, because I didn't know it was based on a novella, much less by Philip K. Dick. Like, are you kidding me? Yeah, I wanted to listen to it. And it's already interesting to see the differences between that and this.
I bet. Okay, so it stars Tom Cruise, Colin Farrell, and Samantha Morton. The budget was $102 million.
Period.
Feud.
Looks every bit of that.
Yes, it does. The trip. I'm just gonna scan this really
also,
quick.
Tom Cruise and Colin Farrell are like, well, Tom Cruise particularly is like the hottest he's ever been in that movie. I think.
Cruise?
He's so hot in that movie.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, he's pretty hot in that
Colin
movie.
Farrell's hot, period, like all the time.
He was a little too pretty for me in this, which is weird because it's still not that pretty, but
I like Colin Farrell better with like that shaved head look.
Yes, a little more edgy. But yeah,
Tom Cruise was
serving. Like,
I
mean,
really
he's a movie star.
Yeah.
Like, love him or hate him, he's a movie star. A large reason why the film was made was because longtime friends Steven Spielberg and Tom Cruise really wanted to work together.
Oh.
The film initially started life as a sequel to Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger reprising his role as Douglas Quaid. However, the project was reformatted into a more straightforward adaptation of Philip K. Dick's short story after Carolco Pictures went bankrupt, because that was the original production that had it.
Interesting.
Tom Cruise and Steven Spielberg both agreed to waive their usual salary to help keep the film's budget under $100 million. They agreed to take 15% of the film's gross instead.
Damn, and they made money, baby.
Let me see if there's anything else that was like.
Also, what's interesting to hear that it was originally like they wanted to do a sequel to Total Recall is the short film that Total Recall is based off was also written. Short film. The short story that Total Recall is based on is by Philip K. Dick as well.
Can I just say I've had a little epiphany recently, and this might make me sound ignorant, but it's 2025, babe. I don't care. I don't care if I sound ignorant. As you know, I've been on a Paul Newman bender, and have
you been watching Paul Newman films?
Yes.
Oh,
sorry. Yes. I'm just literally like Googling. No,
I honestly thought that you were like sitting down at night looking at pictures of Paul Newman, which I do sometimes.
Honestly, that might become part of my bedtime ritual because it's weirdly comforting. No, Scott and I have been watching like his classic films, and I am. So this is going to make me probably sound like an absolute turd, but when I was younger, my mom was obsessed with black and white films, like old films, and I don't know why, but I correlate this with being sick for some reason. Like the thought, I think like maybe she had them on when I was sick. And so there was like a very strange correlation that got made for me where it was like not feeling well and black and white films. And I am not proud to admit that in any way, but here I am saying it. But that being said, like I've seen plenty of black and white films that I love, but I never really as I got older, like dove into that because of this weird thing.
Oh my God, there's so many good ones.
But all I've needed, and again, I've seen some that I love, but I just never really dove in. Whereas I'm realizing a thing about me is that I just need like an in for things. And Paul Newman has been my in.
That makes me so happy.
Where now I'm like, oh, I want to watch everything ever made ever. I don't care. Like that, whatever weird link was, I don't care. But right now, Scott and I we both get into like, we both will find an actor and be like, let's watch everything they've ever done. And we're on a Paul Newman one. And we just watched The Hustler last night and we loved it. He's just, oh my God, a star. And also the most handsome man I think that was ever created ever.
I don't know if I've ever seen a Paul Newman film.
Girl, well, we're gonna do some.
I love black and white films. I love classic films. I've seen a lot of different noirs and stuff because that's one of my absolute fave genres. Oh, I've seen all of Marilyn Monroe's films and stuff like that.
Right.
She did a lot of noirs. It was great. But yeah, I don't know.
But so a lot of the ones we've been watching have either been adapted from a novel or a play. And it really hit me over the damn head that we have been doing this forever, adaptations. Like, I think for some reason, because now it's so in your face, like, I feel like it's like so in your face.
Yeah.
Because
it's like the existing IP.
Yes.
And like they want the audience members they want to get people in the theaters who read those books. So it's like, see, you're going to love this because you love this.
Yeah. It feels, sometimes cheesy. It feels cheap. Whereas like, and again, that's not entirely fair.
Well,
I think
it's worked against us now because there's no original. Well, there's hardly any original IP.
It's harder. Whereas, but again, I will say like every single Paul Newman film that we have watched, it was adapted. Either it was a play or a book, and like The Hustler was a book. And I was like, oh my God, like we've really been doing that shit forever. Okay, last thing of trivia, because I love casting stuff. Kate Blanchett and Kate Winslet were considered for Agatha.
Interesting.
I feel like it.
I could see that because in the script, they are so heavy-handed with how gorgeously beautiful she is, and not that, not that Samantha Morton isn't, pretty, but like, you know what I mean?
100%. But I was also just like,
a
that
more
would have
like
been
traditional
so,
take on that.
But she also has, I feel like she has more of a unique look, which worked in favor of the film.
I think I actually don't. I think that Samantha Morton was the perfect pick.
Completely agree.
She worked so well for that character.
Meryl Streep was originally cast as Iris Heinemann, but had to back out. Matt Damon was originally considered for Danny. Javier Bardem was offered the role, but turned it down because he didn't want to just run around chasing Tom Cruise. Hysterical. Okay, that's like the end of the interesting trivia. So
I'm blanking on who Iris was.
Wait, no, I'm blanking on who Iris was. Okay.
Anyway, also I want to do a quick shout out to one of the writers, Scott Frank, because his writing career is absolutely incredible. Like he wrote and created The Queen's Gambit, which if you haven't seen that show on Netflix, it is so goddamn good. Go and see it. He wrote Logan, like one of the best X-Men movies ever made. Hello. Marley and Me? Are you kidding me? Like this man can just jump genres. The Interpreter.
Yeah, I mean, that's wild. I'm impressed. And he just did Monsieur Spade in 2024. Like, get it, boo.
Like, just pop.
Come get it, babe.
Pop off.
All right, so do you want to hit us with your daddy score?
Yeah, I do.
Let's hear it. I get nervous every time we do this, which is so weird.
I know what you mean. I did go back and forth. Also, I changed up my format for reading. Look at how I'm doing it now. Script Babies, I used to do single page view for PDF, but now I have double page view, so I can just beep, I don't have to scroll as much.
We love to see it.
We love. Okay, so for the script, I went back and forth with this, and I will explain my reasoning for this.
Okay.
Clearly, since I never do that. I'll explain my reasoning for this. Don't worry, guys. You're on a fucking podcast, Colin. I hope so. Sorry. Side tangent.
Carly and Colin, they're just so close-mouthed. They don't say much.
They just don't talk. 7.7 out of 10 is what I gave the script. Carly has done a silent gasp and she has covered her mouth with her hand, which I'm assuming is going to be a brain share moment because
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Why wouldn't it be? Okay, so I'm just gonna do a quick preface. I think I go into this in my what I wrote, but there is action in this movie that I think is some of the best thing I've ever read. It is so fun. It is so amazing. But then the more I got into the script, the more that kind of played against me and made it a longer read and made me a little bit annoyed. And where it's beautiful and amazing in so many places, you also need to be a little bit more conservative and mindful of how the reading experience is. Anyway, let me get into what I wrote. I said, overall, I enjoyed the read. I really loved the first third of the script. Everything felt so energetic, fun, and well thought through. Also, guys, I did not know when I was writing this that this was based off of a Philip K. Dick novella. Did not know.
Yeah.
I thought this was a completely original idea. But, that's just a little context. Everything felt so energetic, fun, and well thought through. The writer used a lot of flowery language in the action that I really enjoyed, and I thought it all aided in painting the perfect mental image. The writer also used a lot of call and response in the action by asking questions, then answering them. For example, on page 87, when Anderton is saving the precog, the action reads, "And what can Anderton do but catch her before she falls? What can he do but throw her over his shoulder and in the fading light of the flare, make a run for freedom?" So there's a lot of moments where he'll literally ask a question and thing and then answer that as part of the journey in the action, which I did really work. Got a little long in the tooth by the end of it, though. I said that's objectively well written and engaging action. However, as the story progresses into the second act and beyond, I found myself becoming a bit weary of all the extra flair in the action. While my daddy do's will seem to contradict this, keep in mind that all the do's and don'ts should be used in moderation, and when it truly services the story. Too much of anything becomes, well, too much. I think the script is a wonderful example of world building, especially for sci-fi writers. The technology and setting are really nice. The technology and setting are all really well thought out, and it's very fun to read. However, some of the character motivations and choices feel a bit thin the further you get into the story. Ultimately, the climax and resolution left me feeling like there's more to be desired. I've seen the movie so many times, so it'll be interesting to watch again as I know how different the movie ended up. And if my memory serves me correctly, all the issues I had with the script were corrected for the film. The script, there's just like, I'm interested to see if that's how the ending is in the novella, but it like the reasoning for everything and for like the antagonist kind of wasn't even there.
Yeah.
There was not even really any arc or anything.
Yeah.
Which can work, but not in a movie like this that's so deeply plot-based. Anyway, all of that was fixed in the movie.
Yes.
What was yours for the script?
Okay, so I just want to quickly preface, like we said, I had read it and watched 3/4 of it when we decided not to do it.
Like a month ago.
And I was, like a month ago. And I kind of like rescanned my notes, did a little like peruse through the script today, and then I finished the last half hour of the film. So I feel like a little off, like I feel a little funky because I normally am coming like so fresh off of it. But that being said, my rating is 7.8 for the script.
Yes.
And I went back and forth too, because I will say
I started at 7.8 and I went down to 7.7.
I started at an 8 and then I had to get really honest with myself.
I went from 7.8 to 8 to 7.7.
This is it's called braid sharing. This is not my my go-to genre. Mm-hmm. And so, but again, like that really, I can honestly say 9.5 times out of 10 does not get in the way for a read for me. I'm like, I really like that about myself, that like, even if it's not my favorite genre, I really like that doesn't get in the way for me. That being said, I still know that about myself. I still know like, this wouldn't be my first go-to for like a pleasure read or whatever. But that being said, it made, I think at first, jumping into the script, I was like, what is this, in the absolute best way? Because let me tell you, script babies, the opening of this script is a masterclass, dare I say.
It is so good.
It is so fucking good. And I really was kind of like blown away. It defied genre. It defied any of it. It was so well done that I literally said, like, the writer does a brilliant job of introducing you into a world in the most digestible ways. Because he does. Like, you know what I mean? And at times we get a little long-winded about it, but nonetheless, I was like, you are talking about a very different world, but in a way where we've talked about this, often in scripts like this, sometimes it's like I get a little bit like, like I'm in the weeds right now, help me get out. I very rarely felt that in this, which I was impressed by. The script had a lot more character and humor in it than the film by like leaps and bounds. Like the tone felt night and day different. Like I was picturing full-blown Pleasantville during this whole thing, because he leads you to feel that.
Unravel the world in that way. It's like a surprise that we're in the future.
100%. Like, because they're trying to like go back to this like, sense of the America and all this whatever, that I have to say, for the script, I enjoyed being in that world. It was very easy to picture and I really enjoyed it. The other thing I said about it was, where do I have it? Oh, where to go? Oh, I said, I truly love this script more than I can properly express. It's very well written. It's visually so clear. There are moments of cheesy dialogue and action that goes on just too long. But my overall takeaway was that I was willing to forgive all of it, because overall, I truly felt like it was so well crafted and so well written. And I do think that the differences that they made for the screen definitely made more sense for the film, but it didn't change the fact that I was like, but I'm so glad that this script exists, because it's it is overall, at least for me, was such like a pleasurable read. I'm a little bit of a quicker reader than you, so I didn't feel quite as like slogged by it. But but again, what's so funny is you're such an action boy and I'm such a dialogue girl that it's funny to me. I thought for sure that I would be slugged. And don't get me wrong, there were definitely times where I probably skipped a line or two because that's just sometimes what happens to me. But like, I really, exactly what you said. And I have this note in 5 different ways in it. I truly kept being like, he found most of the time the most beautiful, delicate dance of telling you what you needed to know to see it with a little flavor to it in a way that I was just so into. Like, I just was like, I kept going like, oh my God, what a beautiful way to put that.
Good
and we
lines of action.
I saved some and I'm sure you did
Oh,
too.
girl, I've written down so many. But yeah, that's one thing I didn't mention, Script Babies, was that like, okay, so I'm a bit slower of a reader.
I feel like a dick now that I said that, but we always talk about
No, he wasn't a dick. It's true. I have dyslexia.
Oh, no, I really... That is
no, it didn't come off that way. I'm just giving an explanation because we've talked about this because I'm jealous that Carly can read so fast. But before this break, I had gotten to the point where I was reading scripts pretty fast, but I'm realizing now a lot of that was formatting because those scripts had a lot of dialogue, and this one, and that's the thing. That's why it was. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance for me with this because like I love action, I love well-written action, and this script, you guys, has like so much well-written action. It's like a treasure trove. It's actually fucking insane how well-written some of the sequences are. It's really, really masterful. But I love that to a point where that's only satisfying to a point because then I need really, really great character dynamics. I need really good dialogue.
Yeah. Yes.
Spoiler alert, the dialogue in this draft is not good.
It's not great.
It's on the nose in not great ways.
It's true.
It's leading. It's
the film's dialogue is leaps.
Oh my God, so much better.
And bounds better. Like
literally so much better.
So much better.
It's so stark because it's like, I was so impressed because like that they put a lot of work into this and like clearly 2 great writers coming together, but like when I started to realize like that the plot felt a little bit too meandering for me. We were just kind of following Anderton around, which was not the case in the film.
No.
But in the script, I started getting a little bored, and you guys, I'm not proud of this. About 45 minutes of this can be taken out because I was making lunch and like getting water and stuff like that. But it took me from just before 10 a.m. to like 3 p.m. to read this script. And I wanted to,
You wanted to jump
out
I wanted
window. I wanted to do bad things to myself.
Yeah, that's
and not in a good way.
No one wants to be reading a script that long, even if it's the best script they've ever read.
But like that was also long because like we couldn't copy and paste from this script.
That's true.
I had to transcribe everything that I wanted to write down. So it just took so much longer. And like, since there's so much action I loved. Anyway, all that played into my daddy score.
Fair.
Just because it's really, really great. But again, there's not really a climax. There's not really a motivation for the antagonist other than to prove that the system works. But go read this script.
Absolutely.
Especially if sci-fi is your genre or you're trying to build a world. Fucking read this script because it is so effortlessly done. The first third of the script is
the best. Is
lip
by far
smacking
the best.
delicious.
And also too, I feel like again, I'm always looking to be inspired by action because by nature, sometimes it feels like a slog to me. Like my first draft, I'm always like, ignore it, Carly. Just write literal barf vomit and then know that you're gonna add a little zhuzh later. That this to me, like you said, it gets to be a bit much. But that being said, if you're looking for inspiration for how to really toe a line to show your voice, but also be very clear in your action, this is a really good script for that.
Yeah. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. This is one of my daddy do's, but just to piggyback off that with finding your voice and like what was really, really, really apparent while reading this was that finding your voice and really honing your voice and how you tell your reader what they're seeing, when done the way it should be done, it supports the tone, which reinforces the genre. And so in this,
baby.
That's all I could see in this was that, because we've read so many scripts now and like talked about them, that I was like, holy shit, this writer like knows how to execute his vision for what this genre should like is and how to support that. It's so well done,
and it's done very confidently
cool.
too. You could feel the confidence on the page, which is huge. And by the way, you can feel the confidence on the page. I said this to a client of mine the other day. I was like, baby, you can feel the difference. You can feel when someone is executing something with confidence.
You can.
Okay, so the film.
Yeah.
So again, not my fave genre. I have seen this film a few times, but it'd been quite a while. I gave the film a 7.5 for me. And I know.
No, I'm so intrigued by this.
But it's complex because I thought, this is what I will say though. I went back and forth because we both love to go back and forth. I went back and forth a lot, but I feel like the script and the film are just very, very different experiences. And a lot of what I loved about the script did not exist in the film. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, did I disagree with it? No, I actually thought a lot of the things that they did, I was like, oh yeah, no, that, like, for instance, one of my dirty jokes was practicing going through every single one of your scenes and saying, how can I add urgency to this scene? Because to me, it felt like one of the notes was literally, how do we make every single scene have a stronger sense of urgency than the script? Because the script has it has some. I mean, the time is ticking. We got to figure it out. But it
takes its time.
But in contrast to the film and the stakes of the film, the fact that his son is dead, the fact that we think his wife is dead, the fact that he's depressed and that he has all these other things that are motivating him on top of the time ticking and all these different things, like the urgency was, the foot was on the gas 24/7 in a way that then made me look back at the script and go like, oh wow, you really lacked that more than I even was aware when I was reading it. So for that, I just kicked the damn camera. For that, I was like very impressed by it, but there were like probably 3 different times in the film where I was like, I'm going to need this to move. It got a little in the weeds for me. And I will say they landed the plane. They landed it well. And
it's all buttoned up.
Their exposition drops I was quite impressed by. I thought it should, like, I was honestly like, oof, this is impressive. I think I
have like specific notes about that.
Good, because I truly, by the end of it, I was like, damn, like for a movie that really goes in a lot of directions and starts to make you go like, wait, what? Who? And then what? By the end, I was like, I feel safe. The plane has been landed. I understood.
And you're not confused.
No, I felt pretty clear-headed on everything. And so I landed on that because it was like, not my fave, but I did really enjoy it. And I was really impressed with the changes that they made. And so that's just where I landed.
I'm so here for it.
Okay.
My daddy score for the movie, I debated with this. And I think I'm actually going to change it right now back to what I originally wanted. So I'm going to tell you guys what I have at now. And I'm going to tell you what I'm actually going to give it, which was my original feeling for it. So right now, I had it 8.7 out of 10.
No.
But my heart says 8.5.
Okay.
Just
We're gonna give that to you.
Just because it really is so long.
It's very long.
There's a lot that could have been cut out that would have really serviced the story. But I'll redo what I wrote after watching the movie. I said, overall, I enjoyed the movie a lot more than the screenplay. It's probably been the best example yet of how the screenplay is really just a jumping off point for the film. While the movie was a bit long, and I think ultimately they could have cut some out, it far exceeded the story in pacing, character development, motivations, and plot. The layers of messaging can really be dissected and explored, from government-funded privacy violations to whether or not we have a destiny, free will, or some combination of the two. I do think that the film stands out as one of the all-time great sci-fi movies, and it still holds up 23 years later. That scene, from reading that, it seems like it should have a higher score, and you know what? Before I'd read the script and done this, if you had asked me a week ago, I probably would have given it like a 9. But in my opinion, it's just too long. Yeah. 2.5 hours. It should have been 2 hours. It could have been 2 hours very easily. But I do still love it.
Well, when Colin Farrell's character dies, there's still like
so
35 minutes
much
left.
There was one part
40
where
minutes
I was
maybe.
like, because I didn't fully remember the ending. And I was like, oh, this has to be in. There was still 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Now, granted, again, then when you get into that last bit of the ending, it is quite satisfying. But we had to go through some peaks and valleys to get there.
But the pacing was really, really well done.
Oh my
gosh. The exposition drops, like, especially in that very beginning sequence. There was one moment, let me see. I think I wrote down a specific one. Here's the exposition is better disguised in the film, like how Colin Farrell's character explains that there's not really any premeditated murders anymore due to pre-crime. I just remember that there's this one moment. It's in the very beginning. They're like watching this, and it's just a side thing between the blonde guy and Colin Farrell's character. And he's describing to the guy like why there's no premeditated murder anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's letting you know like the impact this has had on the world and also the dynamics of how it works, all in like a couple lines of dialogue. And it was so well done that it just like slapped me in the face. It's like, holy shit, that was good. So there's a lot of moments like that.
Well, and I felt like one thing off the bat is like, again, so in the script it is like Pleasantville vibes. Like we're back in the 50s and the movie starts and you're like, we are in the motherfucking future. Like we are, it is in your face. We're in the future. It is.
The whole vibe is different.
It felt so Tom Cruise though. I'm like, Baby Def gave some notes of like, we're going to raise the stakes here, make the technology be off the like, it's just so different than in.
I loved the retro futuristic take though.
So did I know. I'm like, can we still make that film? And again, make
We've
some
seen
changes.
It before,
but
and I think the reason they did that is because the novella was obviously written back in like the late 50s or whatever, 50s or 60s or something like that. So I think it's a callback and nod to that. But it worked so well because it was this odd juxtaposition that like the writer uses. So like, yeah, you're in suburbia and you see these kids like on tricycles and like there's this whole sequence where this little girl runs for a ball in the middle of the road and there's a car. It's so good. This car's like zooming down the road and you see this. We're intercutting between a mom in a kitchen watching this little girl run to the road. We're cutting to the little girl, being the little girl picking it up. Then we're cutting to this man who's behind the vehicle, like driving the car, but he's not driving the car. He's reading a newspaper. And so and also up until this moment, you don't know we're in the future. So the moment that tells you we're in the future is like the little girl's just about to get hit by the car, but then the car like beep, beep, beeps and automatically stops. And the mom is like not worried at all while she's watching this happen. And the way it's written is so good.
So good.
Like my first thing, my first note is the action is so beautifully written. It's so evocative and colorful. Read the opening page for the listeners. Would you like to read the opening page for the listeners?
Sure.
It's just so good, you guys.
It's so good.
Because this feels like a paranormal experience, the way it opens, and then we get into suburbia after that. So it was a really cool...
The first page. Darkness. And then slowly emerging from the mists of darkness, a pale, beautifully... Proportioned face. My brain just stopped. Okay. The oval face is female, a woman of intermediate age, her features as fragile as porcelain. Her eyes are closed in sleep or in death or in something in between.
Period. Hello. Love. I die.
Now, two more faces emerge out of the darkness. They are male and they float into position on either side of the female. They're just as ethereally beautiful, just as pale, and like the female, their eyes are closed. The ghostly lips of the female begin to twitch. Her features, which have been expressionless, suddenly contort, mask-like, into the face of a woman in fear. Her eyes open.
I love that.
It's so good.
The idea that their faces are twitching and like doing, and then their eyes open.
It's so good. The male face on her right contorts too. His features warp into an angry snarl. Hello, use of snarl. The mask of a man enraged, his eyes open. The male face on her left takes on an expression of a young boy, a boy who is terribly frightened, his eyes open wide. As if they are lost in the same terrible waking dream, a sudden and unnerving exchange begins. Female, frightened woman. Johnny, please. Male right, mocking man. Johnny, please. Johnny, please. Female, you're scaring me. Male left, child's voice. Daddy, don't. Daddy. Male right, considering. I don't like you anymore, Carol. Female, imploring. Put the scissors down. You're scaring me, please. Male right. Oh, Carol. Female. Johnny, stop. Male right. Don't grab at me. Male left. Daddy, no. Do you want me to keep going? All we see are three faces on the screen mouthing words, but we can imagine a terrible struggle taking place before us. A man with scissors lunging at his wife, her anguished scream, the whimpering cries of their son. And then there's silence and it's over, and the three faces instantly return to their impassive porcelain state. Their eyes slowly close, they do not move. So that when they do move again, it's startling.
That right there, that's my second note. Like that line of dialogue, like it's saying that, like indicating that, like I love that.
It's stunning. And then just we move down the page a little bit, and it says dissolve to external suburbia day, morning in America. Just look at it. America in the mid-50s, the suburban landscape stretching endlessly into the sun-drenched distance. White house upon white house, emerald lawns glistening with dew. In each driveway, a big Chevy or a Ford muscled with chrome, long Teflons that taper like the fins on rocket ships. I loved this line. Kids burst out of the houses and zoom down sidewalks on trikes. Mothers in bright dresses stand in doorways watching. The smiling mothers wave to one another, then go back into their houses. Like dogs. Wait, sorry, I have to say this last one. Dogs bark, birds sing in trees of just the right height. Boys and girls laugh and ring the bells on their trikes. It is a delicious world where dogs and birds and children are safe.
Like
I could cry. It's gorgeous.
It's so well done. And like the thing that really came through to me reading that is how the writer utilizes the tone of the action as an extension of the scene.
Yes.
So like when you're in this like weird ghostly world where they're reenacting this murder, it's a very different tone to the way he structures his sentences and writes. And then when we're in suburbia and everything's perfect and glossy, it's like so like effervescent and like beautiful, and just it's so cool to see. Like it's like a version of watching a film, but on paper.
Yes.
Where like your emotions change as you read, and that's so well done.
And I truly think you can't underestimate the power of making your script visual. There are few things as important as someone being able to watch the film in their head. Mm-hmm. And this dude nails it.
Yes.
He nails it. It feels like a puppeteer who knows just when to pull the thing to go a little bit more floral.
Sorry, I'm just thinking of being John Malkovich.
Which we also did, if you haven't heard that episode. Yeah, just absolutely stunning. But one thing I thought that was so interesting was, just to go back to the film for 2 seconds, was like in the script, Anderson is really like bored with his job because he's so uninvolved in like the process of finding the killer, the pre-killer essentially, and then it's like he's just not that involved in it. Whereas like the film, what I was like, I literally sat there like, you know what? I can't argue with that. Anderson he's orchestrating. He is literally orchestrating. He is a master. He is literally using his hands. He is orchestrating. He is so involved, and the time is immediate. In the script, it's days away, which I thought was nuts.
Yeah, and the script is like a whole week away.
It's literally a week
away. In the movie,
away.
it's like 72 hours, 36 hours.
Which, to be fair, there is something interesting about the idea, if you want to talk about a political statement, of going a week out feels more fucked up. To go like a week out, you could change your mind 25 times in a week or even in a day. Whereas in the film, the urgency made it more interesting, but it also made it feel more relevant because you're like, they're trying to catch someone right before they do it, which means they've committed to doing this. This isn't a thought in their head or a belief. They're committing to doing this. So I truly loved that. Even though I felt smacked in the face with how different it was, I was like, I completely understand why they made the choice to have him literally a composer. He's literally using his hands like a composer while he's figuring out, pulling these files, doing all these different things. And I just loved that.
When I was watching that scene, I was like, God, this choreography must have taken fucking forever.
Oh my God.
To put through.
Absolutely.
Another thing that I really loved in the script is how, so after the brief stint in suburbia, it's like this idyllic world, and then we get into the whole cutting back between the little girl, the mom, and the driver. And from then on, there's like the writer does a really, really great job at times of reminding you, or not necessarily reminding you, not letting you forget that this is a thriller and this is an action thriller. And so much of like the formatting of things is reinforces that like thriller element.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool too to see. I have more specific notes on that.
Well, and also
later.
one massive difference, and I will say I once again agreed with the change, but there was a tiny part of me that was like, oh, but I would be intrigued to see the version that's closer to the script, in the sense that like in the script, the motivator is that this was his longtime partner that he is supposedly going to kill, and a good friend. Like they're very close. They have a really sweet rapport.
And the guy being like impressed at how he's able to get away.
Yeah,
too,
there was
funny.
That made it a fun, that added a level of fun to the read for me, where it was like you couldn't quite nail, like there was, you liked that they liked each other, but then there was all of a sudden now the new thing is like, but he's gonna kill him and like all this stuff. Whereas like that is completely scrapped in this.
Yeah.
Whitmer's just like is not his partner at all. He comes
in the novella. Whitwer is like Colin Farrell's character. It's Whitwer. But it's in the novella, he is like Colin Farrell's character, who is like from the government coming to do like a oversight thing.
Oh.
It's very interesting.
I mean, it's definitely higher stakes.
And in the novella, the precogs see all kinds of crime, petty theft, like misdemeanors, all the way up to like capital murder. So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I really another thing in the script on page 5, I wrote down there's a formatting thing he did with punctuation that I really loved. And I'll read the action, then I'll give my explanation. So on page 5, it says racing soundlessly down the street so this is okay, so on page 5, it says racing soundlessly down the street towards him are sleek technological marvels, lethal and efficient looking. They seem to be cars, but they are so different from the fat Fords and Chevys in the driveways that it's hard for us to process them. This is such a clever... Oh, okay. So that's what he says. It's when the pre-crime people come into this neighborhood to stop the husband who's going to kill his wife or whatever. And it's, again, when we realize that we are very much in the future because, you know, there's a retro-futuristic take on, like, how people live. But then, like, the government officials have, like, true high-tech technology and stuff like that, whatever. But I wrote that this is such a clever way to show the juxtaposition of the world that we've stepped into, a glossy, seemingly fake veneer of complacent citizens and a technologically advanced police state that watches every move. And then I also love the way that the writer uses punctuation to highlight certain points of the action, like how he uses like 2 dashes to highlight they seem to be cars. So when you're reading it, it says like technological marvels, lethal and efficient looking. It's like dash dash. They seem to be cars. Like, and it's like instead of doing something in all caps or something, or it's like it's also it breaks it up more for your eye than just a comma. So it says he uses a lot of interesting formatting stuff in this script that then just goes and emphasizes tone, which then again supports the genre. That got a little long-winded, peeps. No. You know what else I really liked in the script that wasn't in the movie? Well, for like 98% of the script is not in the movie. Yeah. But like in the script, they have like the technology was so fun and well thought through. Like they can make holographic copies of people to make it look like there's like a sea of cops at your house, so you're like more deterred to run. Yeah. I loved that they took out, and then like. This is a little bit later, but the coroner robot. Yes. I die.
Give me coroner robot.
And I'm so interested to know if that's in the novella or not, because like there's so many like because obviously this guy's writing something for the future. So like the technology needs to back that up. And there's so many cases in this where I'm like, it felt like futuristic stuff is cool. But there's this one thing in the script that's not in the movie where they go to like see this like potential homicide, but they're like, how could it be a homicide when we have pre-crime? And so they have this robot that determines how someone died. He's like, is the coroner here? And they pull out this briefcase and they open it, and it's this like crab-like robot that unfolds itself and then projects a projection of a doctor. And then it like, crawls all over the body and it inserts little syringes and stuff. Cool. And then it processes how the person died. And it's like, this is a positive suicide or like, blah, blah, blah. But like, I loved that because it feels like something that we could actually see today.
Yes.
Like, and this is the version, the script that we are reading was written back in 1997. So there's so many things, even the retrofuturism that's in the script is very much today.
I know, and that's why I'm sad that we again, I wish there was a middle ground version of this made, because like there are a lot of things about the script that I really wanted to see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like yes, I forgot about the robot coroner.
It's so cool.
It's so cool. Okay, I'm gonna read a couple of the action that I just thought was simple but gorgeous. This is so simple, but like page 32, Lisa rises on an elbow and watches him from bed. So simple.
So visual.
But so visual, and something we literally all do.
God, that is good.
Yeah, again, so simple, but I literally was just so into it. Page 34, Anderson looks up sharply at the sound of a knock on his door. Every normal sound seems grotesquely amplified. The traffic outside, his own breathing, his senses are on overload.
Girl.
I mean.
I love.
Is
that after he gets his eyes done?
I think it's actually before that. Page 34.
I remember reading that. Yeah, yeah.
Page 30. Like, it's just, it's so, so, so good. And then page 43, they move past her and spread through the rooms and up the stairs like a disease in fast motion.
Girl, yes.
Excuse me. That's gorgeous.
Excuse the fuck out of you.
I mean, like, these are babies. These are brief. Again, I'm not reading a paragraph right now. I'm highlighting the fact that so many of these, this is craft. To me,
yes.
This is craft. This is not just writing. This is craft, where it's like this writer clearly went through this enough times and found the gorgeous middle of all of it.
And there's so many, like, on almost every page, you can find something like
this.
Page
68. There are so many Andersons in the sky. He seems to be part of the weather, a special type of cloud. Okay.
I love that. Yeah.
Page 71. Anderson is barely breathing. He's listening so hard. Hello. But so much of this is observational of the human experience. Literally, so once again, it's like that idea of if you're wanting, because I'm always going like, what can I take from this? What can I use? And it's like, be so much more mindful in your observations in your day-to-day life, and like have a fucking note on your phone where you're literally setting the intention. I'm gonna once or twice a day, like look out at something and observe it and write it. And even if it sucks, start there in the sense that it's a muscle. It's an absolute muscle. You don't go from 0 to this. Do you know what I mean? Like this is so like, I'm wrapping it up, but page 75, Anderson has to eat bad food quickly and on the run. He gathers up a wrapped sandwich, a bag of donuts, something to drink. Like, just small. Page 100, he stops talking when he looks into Whitwer's hollow eyes. Whitwer is somewhere beyond the influence and reach of words. Like, hello, stunning.
I love.
And then this I really love on page 103, Anderson's voice. It's 103. Set your watch exactly. Lisa pushes the buttons on her digital watch as she listens. Lisa, okay. Anderson's voice. This is what you have to do. We now hear Anderson continue in voiceover as we follow Lisa through a sequence of events. Clear as day.
Yes.
Clear as day. It, once again, we all come up against that feeling where all of a sudden you're about to do a sequence and you're like, oh, okay, how am I going to do the voiceover?
Sometimes just tell them.
Absolutely, just tell
them.
We're
going to hear it in voiceover. She's going to go and do this. And then then you read and you see what she does.
The last one I'll read, page 106, Rose, which they totally changed her name, sits up in bed silently watching Lisa and Anderson together. Lisa needs to touch him. She keeps a hand on his arm, brushes back a loose lock of hair. Rose is mesmerized by her actions. She drinks in everything, every bit of life. Like, I just can't. So I'm going to stop doing that now. But good God.
It's really beautiful. No, I mean, like almost all my notes are, pretty much all my notes are all action related. So
get in there.
I'm going to read some action too.
Come get it, babe.
So pages 7 and 8, it says 2 officers removed their helmets. The first man is tall, sandy haired, good eyes, deeply blue. This is Paul Anderson. Okay. I was wondering, in the script, he calls him Anderson, doesn't he? and his name is Paul, isn't it? It's so interesting. Yeah, it's Anderson. And then they change it back. Okay, so in the novella, it's John Anderton.
Oh.
And in the movie, it's John Anderton. In the version of the script that we read, this first, it's Paul Anderson.
That's confusing because now I'm looking at all my Anderson notes.
So I was tripping about it on the way over here, and I was like, I'm pretty sure, even though I just read it anyway. So when you hear Anderson, it's Anderton, guys. Anyway, pages 7 and 8, it says 2 officers removed their helmets. The first man is tall, sandy-haired, good-eyed, deeply blue. Good eyes, deeply blue. This is Paul Anderson, late 30s, director of Pre-Crime Division, Washington, D.C. The second man is Ed Whitmer, Anderson's second in command, late 30s, big like Anderson, good face, strong shoulders, short brown hair. The 2 men are deeply comfortable together. They can speak or not. It doesn't matter. They still communicate. 2 good cops, good together. And I said, this is a great reminder that it can work well to add some details into the character descriptions that nowadays we'd probably only find out through dialogue or their actions. It helps to cut to the chase and set up character dynamics crisply. Like them, like they could talk or not talk, but they're good communicators, and like what their kind of ranking is, I feel like I don't really see that placed in character descriptions in some of the scripts we've read.
Agreed.
It's not usual.
But I do think it's like, once again, this is where I feel like it gets tough, because it's like, I do think also, though, it's, I think, an area where people kind of overindulge can be in those.
Very true.
Where I have read so many character descriptions where I'm like, I want to know this information, but it feels entirely unearned here.
Fair.
Whereas like what you just shared does not actually feel unearned. It gives you context to these 2 men, like a brief little smidge of, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, it shows their rapport. It shows their unspoken kind of energy together. Which
without
really,
going like, you would have never known that his mother died 3 weeks prior. Like
yes, like some of the things in As Above, So Below, there were elements to those character descriptions that sometimes I was like, we don't need to know that.
And we can't know that. Like, we can't know that. And so this script, I thought, towed that line so closely, but where like sometimes it, again, craft. I'll say it a million times, because it's so easy to get overly, I'm giving you completely unearned information that there is no way in God's green earth the viewer watching this could know. You can't act that many details. Do you know what I'm saying? And I always think like that. We talk about it all the time, because it's like the actor in me is like, you can't act those details. And so, but that being said, some of what you said there, I'm like, some of that actually can be informed on the acting.
That's so true. Girl, you literally, you popped off right there. And that is such good advice. And yeah, because the whole like him towing the line between that, I didn't really cognitively realize that while reading it, but like now going through the notes and like talking with you, you're so right. It is such a fine line. How interesting. Page 9, he did something with a slug line that I don't think I've ever seen before. And I really enjoyed it because, again, it plays into that thing of like writing with confidence. I feel like you gotta have a little bit of writer balls to do this. So on page...
I'm obsessed with writer balls. I'm obsessed with writer balls. I love writer balls. Continue. Obsessed with writer balls.
Writer balls. We're gargling them. So there's a slug line that just says exterior, same scene later. He doesn't tell you, like, you just saw what your interior of, like, because sometimes I want to do that where I'm like, is the reader even going to read this slug line? But I need to denote that we're in a new location, but we're obviously in the same thing. And obviously I'll take out interior and exterior sometimes, just do like, if I'm in a building and I'm going to different rooms, I won't do interior, exterior, whatever. But just saying same scene later. I thought it was so cool because like, it didn't like, it just, I was like, fuck yeah, hell yeah. I love that. So get creative with that. And like, that just plays into your voice as a writer. So I feel like it's a great example to really, play with your writing. And when it works, like lean into that and it becomes part of your voice. 9 to 10. I said, well, I love the action. The dialogue leaves a little bit more to be desired. Yeah. My biggest takeaway, from this version of the script we read, the dialogue, she just wasn't it. Another thing that I don't know if I have or haven't seen this in a script before, but it's not how I denote this. So, and I can't really think of a time I've seen this in another script done this way. I thought it was really fucking cool. Another way of playing with slug lines on page 10, how he says POV. He indicates POV in a slug line. So we're in a scene, and then when it's Anderson's POV, he does a slug line and it says Anderson's POV dash Lisa. So we know what he's seeing, and then you go under that and he does a paragraph describing what he's seeing. Usually what I do, I just continue the action and say whoever's POV and then continue. But I thought that was so cool because it breaks it up enough.
I like that.
And then it's like, because it is like a scene of your own. It is a location of your own. Like the POV is like you're inside a person.
Absolutely.
I thought that was so fucking cool and clever.
And you can very easily miss that sometimes if it's not in something like a break of a slug line. You know what I mean? You can very much miss a POV. Get sluggy with it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Get sluggy on them balls. Oh, and so on page 12, this is another thing that played into world building that plays into tension and plot, interestingly, in different ways, is how the writer really, really emphasizes, without hitting you over the head, how this eye scanner technology has been integrated into everything. Mm-hmm. So like, because having known, like with the movie in mind, knowing how important the eye scanner is and how he has to change his eyes out and everything like that, it's a huge plot device in the story. So to build that in from jump, like literally everything you can't enter someone's house without getting your eyes scanned in this script. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really interesting because that is something that if you mention it too much could be like, okay, I get it. They're scanning their eyes. But like he takes just enough time in between to be like, eye scanner again. And then when it comes into play that he has to get his eyes removed and everything, like you already have it set up how integral into the world this is. And so it's like built-in obstacles. It was so cool.
It truly, I will say it again, it truly felt like they went through every single scene and said, how do we add urgency? And truly him being a drug addict, who's depressed and also above all else, the fact that his son was abducted on his fucking watch.
Girl.
And I have to say, I was so impressed with how they handled it. And like in the film it was so quick. It was so simple. We knew that his son had died or was taken. We knew that. But the scene where they reveal it, I literally did a quick, quiet applause to myself because I was literally... The way he's at the pool, it's a crowded pool. You see his son, he's playing with his son. You see that rapport, and it's like, all right, count. He loves his watch. Like, all right, count while I hold my breath. And then when he comes up and he's gone. Because again, I do feel like every movie's different, tone's different, all that stuff. But this was a pretty dark, like they really had so much more edge to the film that they could have gone really gory with it. They could have done something heinous, but instead... It just gave you this sick feeling of his legs are there 1 minute, his legs are gone the next, the panic on his face, and then knowing that this father, that is his why. That is why he's obsessed with this. It is his motivating factor, makes all of it, the stakes so much higher than, again, a man being bored with his job and being like, oh, shoot, I'm being accused of murder. I guess I better figure this out. This was like... I got to figure this out. Like it unearthed this whole thing, but I really was impressed that they found such a quick and simple way to show you the way his son was abducted and that it happened while he was with him.
Yeah. I feel like that, I mean, again, talking out of my ass here, people, but I feel like a lot of that with like the pumping up those character dynamics was probably Scott Frank because looking at his past things, I mean, Marley and me. Yeah. Like, have you ever seen Wolverine?
No, but
it is wonderful.
Wait, you're talking about Logan or Wolverine?
Oh.
Aren't they different? He did both, I think. But Logan. Everyone's obsessed with Logan. Yeah, I haven't seen that one. I gotta see
Logan. Yes, Logan. That's what I'm talking about. The Wolverine was good too, but
I've only heard good things
Logan
about it. Yeah.
is the character exploration in that is so well done. Like this man knows people and he knows how to write it, and I'm just so impressed.
Can we talk about the scene where in the film where he thinks he's meeting the man who killed his son?
Girl.
I really liked that scene.
I had a whole like download in my mind because I've seen this movie like at least like 6 times.
Wow. Okay.
But over the years, because I mean, it's been 23 years that this movie's
yeah.
been out. So I've seen it so many times, but with years in between, maybe not 6. 6 maybe a lot, maybe 4 or 5. Anyway, watching that scene, so I had forgotten a lot of the ending. It's so interesting. It is a really long, very dense movie.
It is.
But I had a whole like revolutionary moment in that with like one meaning of the film, with in terms of like free will and destiny. I wrote.
Tell it to the class.
Oh, okay. So he's in there and he's so certain that this is the guy that killed his son. He's like, oh, this is it. I'm going to kill him. It's going to come true. And she's like, no, don't. You still have a choice. You still have a choice. And this is what I wrote down when I was watching that. I said, what you're destined for will find you no matter what. And if you try to prevent it from happening, that'll just ensure it happens even more. That's the point of the movie. That's exactly what happens. Agatha is the only one who saw him killing him in the future. The others didn't. So him killing the guy is the Minority Report. That's another thing that like him killing the man, that's the Minority Report. He's not supposed to because it's all set up. And the guy didn't kill his son. And I was said, if he hadn't acted at all, none of this would have happened. Like the fake thing came through.
Yeah.
And so if he had just not acted at all, but that's the fucking loop there. That's the, what's the word? The paradox is that how can you not act on it? Because you don't know, because he's operating off the assumption that, you know, it's infallible. They're always right. But I just thought that was so interesting because like how many times in your life do all of your motivations and all of your actions come from a place of trying to prevent an outcome from happening, and then when that outcome inevitably happens, you look back in retrospect and see how you trying to prevent that actually led you to it.
Woo!
But that's not actually the point of the movie because it goes on like past that because he's not he didn't kill his son and stuff like that anyway. But that theme is still relevant
100%.
even with that. I just thought that was so interesting and so cool.
So cool. And also, by the way, Samantha Morton, I got too excited. Samantha Morton ate and left no crumbs.
She was very good.
It made me go like, I hope that she was held after she shot this, because she goes there quite a few times where I was like, good God. I mean, she really pulled off what could have been considered a very hard character to play. Like,
well, there's one scene in particular that I think really encapsulates how she elevated the material. It's because this moment could have been so fucking cheesy.
Which moment?
At the end, when they're in the house.
Yes.
And she goes, I'm sorry, John, but you're going to have to run again. And then she goes, run! Like screams at the top of her lungs. It could have been so goddamn cheesy, but it's fucking visceral.
It's visceral. When she does it. And also the line. I literally like want to put this on Canva and then print it and then frame it. The dead don't die. They look on and help. Remember that. Oh. Hello?
I love
it. Was
and when she recounts his life and then brings it all back around, but he's 6 and he can't because the adults went back.
It was so good. And she pulled it off. So, and you know what's interesting is the script version of her, I always had a little trouble like fully envisioning, because I kind of like there was something about Rose, that she was Rose in the script and Agatha in the film, which I'm like, what a change.
And then it's a different name in the novella too. I forgot what it was.
But like I will say like in the script, I had a hard time kind of like, Rose just seemed like she would be like this very childlike.
She's a bit of a nothing burger in the script.
Right, but in the movie,
she's
it's
a device, and then they leave her in a hotel room, and we never see her again.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's true.
He leaves her, like, in the sprawl.
Justice for Rose.
Yeah.
But in the film, again, I do think that the actress brought so much to it, because it's like they're more than psychic, because by putting them in water and having them hooked up and doing all these things, you're creating a sense of sci-fi where you're like, it's more than just a medium. It's more than just a person who can have visions of the future. And we're implying that by having them in liquid, because at first you think, do they need to be in the liquid? My thought, I don't know if you felt, did you feel that way? When I first read it, And then even watching it, it almost felt like the way they set it up was like they needed to be in there.
In the movie, they really hit that point more.
And then you really see like, no, they are torturing these people who have a gift. Like they are literally turning
full
them
exploitation.
in. Yeah, they're turning them into like devices.
Yeah. Exploiting fucking junkies.
Yeah.
Stealing their kids.
Insane. But so again, I just have to give her credit because I really felt like I couldn't quite get around that character in the script. And again, very different than the film, but I just felt like you said, she had some rough dialogue she had to deliver. Not even rough dialogue, but just things that like, again, could have been very cheesy. And she really performed the shit out of it.
And it's true because she does deserve her flowers for that, because I feel like when you watch that movie, that performance kind of goes overlooked because it's so like the movie, but like it is such a delicate,
she grounds it in a weird way, but then she also like when she screams and she does these things, you always do have a slight sense of like she's more than I always felt like she was like a little more than a person in a good way, where you were like, oh, like you're in this other tier of thing, and in a different world you'd be worshipped, but in this fucked up world you're being completely manipulated and taken advantage of,
which
and
is
all
what
that
would
shit.
happen.
Exactly.
It is sadly the world that we're living in. This is exactly what would happen if the government could do it. You know what else I loved was like watching the movie was like seeing the holdovers from like that's like the 2002 of it all, like him going to Gap to get her clothing. It's like 2040,
and also like his watch Bulgari. Like when it shows, I was like, dear God, in
it's funny.
heaven.
You know what scene? So it's my favorite scene in the movie, and I was very excited to read it on the page because I love that, and it's actually been a scene that when I've watched it in the past, I've been like, I wonder how this was described and written. And was one of the few scenes that was translated pretty true to it, but then enhanced in great ways was the eye surgery scene.
Agreed.
So good. But the additions they made to it, like
really good.
Because like in the script, so if you guys have seen the movie, you know when he gets his eyes taken out, like he has to sit there for 24 hours or whatever.
So fun.
And they're like, he's like, here's this rope takes to the kitchen, this rope takes to the bathroom. And like when Tom Cruise like goes to the kitchen and he eats the moldy sandwich and then drinks the moldy milk. None of that's in the script, but like genius additions. It added so much. It's so good. And like the nasty, snotty doctor. And like it was on the page, and then it was very much in the movie.
Yes, and him being submerged in the water too, and just like it really, because what is in both the script and the film, I believe, is that he does not know how close he is to the 24-hour mark. So the reason he's not just ripping off the bandage is because he's told if you take it off too soon, you won't be able to see. And so again, gorgeous stakes for both the script and the film, but they really do turn it up a little bit in the film, and it is so much fun to watch.
And in the script, the doctor. So he's like, I don't think they say this in the movie. The doctor's like, because usually it should take like weeks for this operation to heal, but it's the future. And he's like, I juiced you up a little bit more. Like I gave you some nanobots that are going to like, rebuild your vessels and stuff in your eyes. But he says it's going to feel like fleas are like eating your eyeballs. He's like, so don't, but like that, like fleas chewing on your eyeballs. Like I could feel it in my imagination. And just like, that is such a good description.
The two examples of exposition I just had to highlight specifically was Colin Farrell right before he's shot. Like I think I already said that, but like the way he literally tells you like we don't yet know it's Lamar that did it.
Yeah.
But like the way he is putting the pieces together, and that's both writing and performance to be fair, but nonetheless it came together so beautifully, where he's piecing it together and he's explaining really for the viewer, to be real.
Yeah. To have it make sense.
He's letting you know. And then only my second favorite exposition then was at the end when Tom Cruise pieces it all together. It's like Colin Farrell's character laid down the footwork of like, I think this is what happened. I think they saw this was going to happen. The people came, but someone knew and they dressed the same, snuck in and did it. And so we're like, okay, that seed's planted.
Just such a smart explanation for like using the echoes, like setting up the echoes and then utilizing that to be the ultimate twist.
And then it comes down to like the way the waves are going was genius as well.
Yeah.
But then it's happening in real time, and then he shoots him. You're like, oh shit. And then you immediately are like, it's probably Lamar. Lamar probably did it because that's a crazy thing to do. And then, but then to follow that feeling, and then you see the scene with his ex-wife, and he reveals like drowning. She's like, I didn't say she drowned. And
right, yeah.
And then but then we get to the award ceremony or whatever,
like that in
and
movies where it's like they say something and then the other character says something you didn't
Perhaps-
tell
and he's
them,
like-
I didn't tell you.
and he's
that.
like, perhaps I'll come to your cottage
Yes.
tomorrow. And I was
And like
"Barf."
that, one thing I realized watching that movie, because I've seen it in so many movies where like it's a trope where like one person tells a character some detail of something, and then when they respond to it, they add another detail that the person didn't explain. That shows that it was them that did it. It's a trope, but in my book, in the screenwriting school of Colin, it always fucking works. It's always good.
In fact, there was a version of that in The Hustler with Paul Newman where literally he says Sarah, and she's like, how did you know my name was Sarah? And he's like, you told me. And she's like, well, I lie. And he was like, okay, well then what is your name? And she's like, Sarah. And it's so, again, a spin on it's, don't ever do it the same way as everyone else. But if you find your spin on it, it's Gorgine and it works. Literally one of my notes at the end is just, Lamar, you scummy old piece of shit. But
Literally.
again, what a great villain that his motivator was, no, but we need this because it's like, I don't care that I am completely ruining Agatha's life more than the brothers. The brothers are like vibing in this film. Like they're chilled out in that jail. They're like
vibing.
They're like, you know what? Maybe this
Although,
isn't so bad.
in the script, one of the brothers dies.
Oh, right. But in the movie, they're extras.
Mhm.
They're in the hot tub, as far as I'm concerned.
They're tubbing in the tub.
They're in the koozie. But like, you know, where like they might be having margaritas. We don't know.
I hope
but
so.
Agatha's going through it, and Agatha is mourning her mother's death while the brothers are out to lunch.
Yeah, absolutely. The plight of a woman.
And they're like, she's the most powerful.
Of course she is. Also, so if you've seen the movie, you never read the script, in the version of the script that we read, the whole Dr. Hardiman or whatever her name is, she's not even in there. And I loved that addition into the movie.
So did I.
Played, I don't know what that actress's name is, but I love her. She was the grandmother in True Blood. I love that show.
She's great.
I'll go through a few more of my little things that I had. There's one note in particular that I'm so jazzed off of, but I gotta find it on the page. But we'll get there. On page, let's see. She beep.
She bums,
She
she
bop,
boobies, and
she
doobies.
bang, she bangs. Oh, I thought, well, I don't have a specific thing for this, but on page 16 in the script, they use a tour guide as a vehicle for exposition. And I thought that was an easy, clever way to get across like the history of a building.
I do love the ways that people find to use exposition. When it's done well, it just makes my little heart pitter patter.
I said it's a good reminder that exposition doesn't have to be blended in and hidden perfectly. It can also be overt and still work nicely when done in the proper context.
We felt that way about As Above, So Below, where they ended up changing it, but we both felt like it was a very organic way to show his character.
And like they did like a GoFundMe video, and I thought was such a great vehicle for exposition.
Yep. Oh, one thing I'll say is in the script, it's a disc that they're getting the premonitions on, essentially, of these murders. And I did think that the movie's use of like the ball was so much cooler and so much more interesting.
Cooler.
But it also made it seem so much harder to hack, which I thought made the film more believable. Because I will say in the script, it hit certain points where I'm like, bro, are we talking about like a floppy disk? Because it felt that way, where you were like, that feels quite easy.
I think it was like those little mini discs
for sure, but it still felt so much more conceivable that like you could hack that. Whereas this made it go like, that feels, their whole system looks quite complex. Like that feels hard to replicate.
Yeah, it's funny because like in the novella, it's like a punch card system, which is like old school computers.
Yeah.
In the script, it was like little discs. And then the movie, it's like little clear pieces of like it's like a glass that you can like, plug in and get information on, and it acts as a little screen. And one note that I have is that I love when a story set in the future with like super high technology, but that technology still being slightly analog.
Yes.
Like we're definitely in the future because like it's funny, you got to think of the writers in that time. They weren't back in the late 90s and early 2000s. They didn't know everything would be digitized. Like how this would actually play out. There wouldn't be any discs or anything. It's all going to be on a cloud somewhere, whatever. I just think that's so fun to see how my note for that was that you can never predict what the future is going to be and what technology is going to hold. So if you're writing a sci-fi that's heavily technology based in the future, get fun and get creative with it. And don't be so worried about it like being so close to now. Like, totally agree. You know, they could have totally gone a different direction, not made it analog type technology 100%. And it totally would work. But then again, you can't predict what it is. So just like,
and like world building's world building, like future, whether it's accurate or not is irrelevant in the sense that as long as it feels consistent in the world that you're building, that's all that anyone really cares about. And it's fun to actually see technology that doesn't actually exist shown in film. I love that shit. Yeah. I actually prefer when it's things that don't resemble what we actually have.
I loved they in the script, it didn't make it to the movie, but in the script, they have like binding gel instead of like handcuffs, and you can just spray the binding gel on there. That was fun. I wrote down the description of the coroner. I'll read it for you guys. If you're going to read the script, it's on pages 21 and 22. It says, the officer places the case beside the corpse and opens the latches. Inside the case is a large metallic apparatus, the coroner. It comes to auto life and begins to unfold itself. It rises crab-like and steps out of its case. The coroner crab bristles with probes and instrumentation. It is 2 feet wide and 1 foot high. There is a whirring sound and a splash of sparkling light, and the comforting holographic image of an old-fashioned medical doctor in a white lab coat takes shape. Except for his mouth, the doctor doesn't move. His projected image stands beside the body, his arms folded behind his back. He is the interface, the way the humans communicate with the crab apparatus. Again, very clear, tells you this is what it like, but like it's so fun and like so, again, in a weird way, close to what we, aside from the holograph, so close to, I imagine like the government has to have some sort of device like this, like walks around, like examines dead bodies and stuff. I love it. I love it. There's so many things. So I did a slightly different format for my notes this time, where usually I put my explanation for why I like the note and then I put the action. This time I wrote down the action, then explained it. So it's throwing me off, people, with my conversation. But on page 30, Frank says, I don't want to be part of this world anymore. And Anderson says, I know, Frank. Frank gives Anderson a look. No, friend, you don't know. The Frank looks, so he says like,
then Frank looks hard at the gun on the counter.
Yes. So I love the personal edition of an action saying like, when like replying to the dialogue, he says, oh, I know, Frank. He's like, I want to die. He's like, I know. Then the thing is like, no, you don't know, friend. Like indicating like this guy's going to kill himself right now.
I will say, just as we're getting closer to the end, I did really like that for a pretty heavy film, for a pretty edgy film, dark film, all of that, like you're not feeling good for almost this entire film. I did like that they ultimately ended on him and his wife getting back together and her getting pregnant. I love the really message of hope of that. Like, I feel like when the way that they show in the film that they broke up after their son was taken, I think is so accurate to so many people's experience, but that they still had a love for each other. There was still a respect for each other, that she helps him out ultimately as part of, really saves him then at the very end, but that they were able to like make it work. And then just being able to see her pregnant belly, there was something that like you went through a lot with this film for a long time. And it felt nice that there was no perfect like button. They definitely buttoned up quite a bit, but like it felt good to be like, we don't have to end on this like really horrendous note. Like we can feel like we went through this thing and feel a little bit better on the other end. And I was really grateful for that.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a more like modern thing to like leave it open-ended or like leave on like a bitter note.
Yeah.
But it was really nice and very really gratifying to see them happy like that,
See
which is not really the case in the script.
No.
So in the script, the whole thing is like Anderson goes on this whole journey of like they're chasing after him. He knows he didn't do it. He's trying to figure out who set him up, blah, 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 all these things. It ultimately turns out that Anderson's partner, who really isn't in the movie much, is like the mastermind behind like setting him up. And like his whole motivation for setting him up was to prove that the precog system is indeed infallible. Mm-hmm. But like, other than that, he does like he's gonna essentially make himself a sacrifice for this system for just cause.
Yeah.
And it's very unsatisfying.
Very unsatisfying.
And then I forget exactly how it ends.
The very, very end, I read it like right before we did. The very, very end is similar to the last shot. Like, the last shots are similar. Her and her brothers, Agatha and her jacuzzi loving brothers, are laying on a field. Yeah. And she says, like, can you read my mind? And he says no. And then they zoom out. Whereas in the film, it's not quippy like that, but they're because again, there's really no humor in this film, like the way that there is in the script. Like there's just not.
It's true.
And so in the script, again, we leave off on them and we hear Tom Cruise describing that they're in a place no one knows about where they can live out their lives.
Yeah.
In a cabin reading books.
Yeah. I want to be there.
Those brothers are like, we missed the coos.
There was something in the script that I liked. It was a use of character descriptions in rapid succession that I thought added flavor, but also was a good distinguishing factor, even though you don't stay with these characters very long.
Yeah.
I just want to read it because it was fun. So it's on page 45. It says interior, a conference room. Whitworth takes a seat at the end of a long table. Powerful men sit at the other end of the table. Swanson, sharp-boned, the FBI director. Cronin, owl-like eyes, the CIA director. Senator Malcolm, who we've already met before, so you don't get a little thing for him. Then it says Chief Justice Pollard, whose face reveals nothing. Vice President Almer, whose tongue darts across his dry lips unsettlingly. Unpleasant-looking men in an unpleasant mood. Like,
stunning, gorgeous, and it goes by Carly's school of writing, which is like, if you don't give me a physical detail, I'm gonna smack your face and I'm gonna be mad and I'm gonna hold it against you. I don't need 5, I don't need 3, I need at least 1.
Mm-hmm.
I was literally just writing a scene last night where it's like introducing like 3 characters and they have a very small role in it, but I was like, and again, it's a first draft, so I was kind of like, whatever, but I literally was like, no, Carly, you need to give a little something.
So I have 3 more notes.
Okay.
So I'll just read them.
Give it to us.
So the only thing that is an explanation for this one is absolutely perfect action.
We love that.
I loved this so much. So it's page 48 when Anderson first goes into the sprawl, which I don't know if this is the novella, but the sprawl is what they call the city that's like unzoned city sprawl that just like goes out to the, as far as the eye can see outside of Washington, D.C. So like cyberpunk kind of gritty, overpopulated city streets. So it says exterior, the sprawl, night. The unzoned city is full of 1950s iconography, but it all feels different than it did in the suburbs. Where the suburbs were Ike, the city is Joseph McCarthy. The fat ramblers and Studebakers have a little grime on them. The women's dresses are tighter and more urgent. The men, I like describing like
more urgent.
What better way to describe a prostitute than that? Like the urgency of like wanting to attract a guy.
I'd like to be described as that.
I die for that. The women's dresses are tighter and more urgent. The men's suits have some shine at the elbow. You look over your shoulder here. You look over your shoulder here. Move faster and smile a lot less.
Beep bop boo.
I love it. The next one's on page 55, and this requires me, I think, to read a page of action. So,
give it to us.
Who's ready? It says, read everything from exterior a street to interior a room. This plays into one of my daddy do's, actually. So this action is absolutely shimaze. Okay, so this is when he first goes into the sprawl. So this is when it is. And actually the thing I just read, I think might be caught up in this. Anyway, it says exterior, a street, the sprawl, night. Every city has its underbelly. If you lifted the fat, dark underbelly of the sprawl, this is where you'd end up.
Stunning.
The streets here feel like alleys, clotted and tight. There are streetlights, bright ones, but the light dies at its source, never making its way to through the sour air to the ground. The retro 50s look comes apart here. The people that you see, and you only catch quick glimpses of them, they move like rats, wear black mostly, tight-fitting technofibers. Anderson's caught one of the rats, a thin, bald guy in black. Anderson has him pinned up against a wall. They're having some kind of exchange, which consists of the guy answering none of Anderson's questions and Anderson pressing him harder against the wall. Finally, the guy does something odd. He lifts a finger and pulls down Anderson's right lower eyelid. Anderson lets him. Then the guy does the same to the left, has a long look, and then nods. Anderson releases him, and they go off together. Exterior, an apartment building later. An oppressive brick thing on a side street. The facade is crumbling. Nothing good happens in a building like this. The guy leads Anderson to the building, then scurries off into the night. Saying nothing good happens in a building like this.
I mean,
like, this is what, like, so many moments where, like, we've talked about this in previous episodes, but, like, little things like that are only for the satisfaction of the reader.
Yeah.
And it works so well always. And then my last thing, in my last note is on page 77. It's the most ridiculous part of this whole script. So Anderson's like, you know, he's kind of a cat in a corner. All the guards are about to get him or whatever on the street. And he's trying to figure out how he's going to get away, And he sees a water main line and he like inches his way over there. He shoots the water main line and then a 2-foot thick torrent of water, like a cartoon, pushes him into the air so he's able to grab onto something 2 stories up. That, nuts. I'm sorry, for all the great things I love this. So
rough, tough.
Like, that can only work in a cartoon.
No, agreed.
This is a sci-fi I did not like. So, like, if you're gonna, like, be outlandish, have fun with it, but only do little stunts like that are so not part of the real world. Yeah. Like, if it, like, is a comedy or something, or, like, a cartoon.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
But that's it for my...
So now we enter the world of Daddy Do's and Daddy Dodes.
Oh.
And as per the usual, we've already shared one of each because we just can't help ourselves. My first Daddy Do, I already shared, but I'm going to say it one more time. Go through each scene of your script and ask what urgency could do for it. Even if it's just as an experiment, almost all the changes from the script to the screen have more urgency in the film than the script. I just thought like this defies genre once again, where it's like, if nothing else, you don't have to use that draft. But what an interesting, because I do think like the idea of like kill your darlings or people being too precious about their characters is so common. And I say that as I am fully speaking to myself as well, where I'm like, but I don't want to make them hurt that bad. But like, just asking what would urgency do here, because I felt like the creativity that came from script to screen came from that question being asked over and over and over again, where like a lot of the things they added, I was like, couldn't help but like nod and go, yeah, that raises the fucking stakes. I care a lot more now than that, whatever. I said, this is especially true for sci-fi world building scripts. Write the vision in your head in a way that is as clear as possible. Trust the vision being so clear that if the film's made, it like, even if it's just the bones, because that's what I felt like to me. It was like the bones of the script were there, but the skin and the organs were different, but the bones were absolutely there. Yeah. That we've said this before, but again, it's like if you trust the vision of if you fully immerse yourself in the vision of your script, then it can, and someone who wants to make it, if they turn it into something else, like you have to trust that document was the document that inspired the next thing, because it was so fully what it like envisioned. Mm-hmm. And I felt that from this.
Oh, totally. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah. That it felt like
it encapsulated enough of the vision to then make a great movie.
To inspire this great film. Like like I truly, as much as like there are certain small things we would change about the script, in general, an absolutely wonderful jumping off point to make a film from.
Yes.
And that comes so much from his clear vision, his confidence, his style, all of it. Allow yourself the balance of writing essential action while leaving room for your own flavor and voice. This is done so well in the script. Trust your vision. And then you want to do your daddy do's and then I'll do my daddy don'ts, or should I do both?
Yeah, I'll do my daddy do's and we'll share
Do
daddy
your daddy
don'ts.
do's.
Oh, daddy, I'll do a number one. Daddy do set the tone and have it support the genre. The writer has mastered the art of setting the tone. By interweaving prose, character descriptions, interesting slug lines, and a sense of internal dialogue, and tiny anecdotes, the writer reinforces the genre every step of the way. Really hone the way you tell a story so that the energy and attitude matches your vision and aligns with the genre. One example of that was on page 55 when I just read about like him pushing that guy up against the wall. Another good example is page 65 at the top. He describes why Malcolm is so comfortable in his home in a really nice little like anecdote in a way. So it says, interior, a wealthy home, suburban Washington night. Senator Malcolm releases a self-satisfied little belch as he finishes off a late night whiskey in his paneled den. He wonders about admiring himself in the many political photos adorning the cherrywood walls. He's feeling cozy and safe the way rich people can afford to. No identiscan spiders would ever be sent under his doorways. No intrusions of any sort, nothing that a coiffed secretary or a loyal wife wouldn't announce beforehand, which is why he doesn't immediately understand the small sound at ear level coming from just behind him. It's a metallic click-click. He turns amiably. His eyes instantly widen and his knees buckle when he sees he's looking into the barrel of Anderson's cocked gun. Like, entering that, being like, this is why he loves it. He's so delicious. He's drinking wine. His whiskey or whatever. He feels so safe here, the way rich people do. And then saying, which is why he doesn't take it seriously when he hears, like, that is something I don't think I have seen that really in another script. It's so cool. Absolute craft. Like, it's a journey to read a simple, like, it's very innocuous. That's a moment in a script that would be like that. It's over and it's done. I mean, in a movie, it's over and done. But in a script, it's like,
Okay, do you think this is worth saying, though? Because I am so fully on the same page with you, but this just hit me, and I feel like it might be worth sharing. We're saying this, and we're admiring it, because that's how we feel. That being said, there's something to be said for being inspired by other people's voice and their craft. But I also think it is okay to acknowledge if this is not how you write.
Oh, yeah.
In the sense, I mean, I just mean like, in the sense that we're talking about honing your voice, honing your, like, the way you want to do a slug line, the way you want to do these things, that like all of this is inspiration. This is all inspiration that should fuel your own sense of self as a writer, because not everyone should be writing like this. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
all the daddy do's and don'ts, use them in moderation when it's right in the context of your story. You can throw all this out, whatever. I don't know why I'm saying that. I'm just saying it because I feel like I could see myself being so hyped and listening and being like, I got to go do all those things. And I feel like the takeaway is more so like, how can you take these things and apply it to your work, your genre? If you're a rom-com writer, you're not going to do the same shit as this, but it's still something to look up to and be inspired by going like, how in my voice and in this genre can I share these things in my craft? So that might be for no one, but some part of me was like, I feel like a version of me could listen and go like, oh, fuck, I should be doing that. And it's like, yes and no. Yes and no. Yeah. If you're inspired by it, find what nugget of that is inspiring and try and find your own version of that. Play with it.
We're not trying to replicate, baby. We're trying to inspire.
Yeah, because this same thing could happen in a different script, not written as well, and I'd fucking hate it. No, but like, yeah, for real. All these are just our opinions. Don't take any of it too deeply to heart unless it inspires you that way. Daddy do number 2. Daddy do utilize good structure to break up the story when you have multiple characters with different journeys. This story mainly follows Anderson, but a lot of the story also follows Whitwer in his pursuit and Lisa as she struggles to unravel the truth. The writer does a good job of cutting back to Whitwer and Lisa in order to break up the main plot, adding new information and obstacles. Then taking us back to Anderson with a broader picture and often a heightened sense of urgency since we know what the others are doing to find him. It's just really nice. Like sometimes I feel like in my earlier scripts, I would kind of just barrel through a story and follow the main character the whole time. But especially in a film like this that's so plot heavy, when you have like a cat and mouse kind of element to it, you got to cut back to your other people to A, service them as their like B and C storylines, and to B, not to give people a break from your fucking character. Like, you got to get away sometimes to then come back that way, because otherwise the journey doesn't feel as heightened sometimes.
I completely agree.
You got to go away to come back to like mean something.
That is nom 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 nom. Yes.
Period. Daddy do number 3. Daddy do build your world and its rules thoroughly. This script really excelled at its world building. From the technology to the look and feel of the characters' everyday lives, this world felt alive and relatable. For example, the binding gel that serves as handcuffs, the bombs that create a mini sun, and the over-inundation of advertisement and government oversight all serve to not only show us that we are in the future, but that we're in our future. You don't have to imagine these things being real when some of them already exist. For example, rampant advertising and government privacy violations. Period. And I say that with no irony on Inauguration Day.
Those are so good, by the way. Like, yes. My daddy don'ts. Be mindful of enormous action blocks that can get your reader completely lost in the weeds. Really try to strike the balance of your clarity of vision, but not overindulging in every single detail. This is where craft comes in and refining each draft. Because let me say this. Hallelujah. Let me say this. We have said in every way a person can say how fucking great of a writer this guy is. And even a writer that we're putting up there, we're saying sometimes too much.
It became a bit too
so
much.
The point to make there is not, oh, you get to write all the action you want if it's written well. Nay.
Period.
Even if it's written well and it gets to the point where you're an entire page, there is nothing breaking this puppy up and we're getting in the weeds, I'm starting to zone out. Even if it is written in top tier form.
That is from God's mouth to Carly's mouth to your ears.
But do you know what I'm saying? Like, it really hit me because for a second I was like, maybe it is sometimes that it's like, no, this is like, even if it's written well, if it's too much, it's too much. If it's overdone, it's overdone.
Which plays into what you were saying about like, don't take any of this too deeply to heart.
Yes.
Like, or think that these like our opinions are like these strict guidelines, or that we only abide by these rules.
100%.
Because too much of a good thing is too fucking much.
To the point where I feel like one of my favorite things about this is that we're finding themes in all of this. We're finding those things where, like you said, it doesn't even mean that we abide by all these things. Or like, again, when I work with clients, like sometimes there's different stories called for different things. But that being said, I love that we're finding like thematically similar things where we're like, oh, in all these different genres, this is still pointing out. And to me, this should be like a breath of relief in the sense that you go, no, don't try to be like, I'm just going to write it so good no one's going to care that it's a full page of action. No, we're still going to care, baby. Because even when it's written top tier form, it's still too much. And so like
quadrupled the amount of time to read it.
100%. So it took you a lot of hours. And like, this is a very well written script. So it wasn't about how it was written. It was just that it was too much. So keep that in mind.
Also,
babies.
just to piggyback off what you were saying, how different genres and different stories require different writing. That is such a good point, because all these things, like our daddy do's and stuff, we're learning these things like as we read these, and we're formulating these as we read. That's very obvious. But like, I think maybe one thing, Script Babies, maybe if you haven't picked up on this or not, is that like, this is enjoyment for us, but it's also equal parts research for us as writers, because this script in particular, I am just at the very tail end of a very plot heavy, action heavy, thriller horror comedy and noir. And it's reminded me on my second and third drafts to go back in and really hone my action even more, because it is such a plot heavy thing and there needs a lot of action. But like, this was reminding that like, it can be so great and so well done, but if I've read fucking 20 pages in a row of action heavy pages, I'm just going to start getting bewildered.
There's no reader on the planet that isn't going to start checking out.
Yeah. And so it's a good reminder of that. So like these things are all lessons that we're telling ourselves too. 100%. We're not pretending to be like experts here. No. So yes.
My last thing was just literally don't overcomplicate your story if you don't need to. While I really do love a lot of the changes that they made from script to screen, there were also some things added that made it harder to follow at times, which I didn't feel reading the script. I enjoyed that the script pitted old friends and colleagues against each other in its simplest form, but the film added so many layers to it in some ways that made me care actually less emotionally. While I cared more in so many ways because of the stakes of the son having been abducted and killed and all these different things, there were times where I found myself actually checking out a little bit more because I was trying to gather what was going on in a way where I was like, I wish I was like a little bit more engaged emotionally in what was happening.
Yeah.
I had moments of
more mentally engaged.
Yes. I had moments like, again, when the son is abducted, I was fully in, especially as a parent. I'm like, where'd those legs go? Where'd those legs go? But I don't know why we're laughing, but it's weird.
Where'd those legs go? No, it's true though.
But like, I just found that emotionally I wasn't as engaged as, like you said, I was mentally. And again, that's not necessarily right or wrong, but I just felt like maybe some of the overcomplicating meant a little bit less emotionally engaged feelings.
Yeah.
And that's it for me, darling.
I love. Here are my daddy don'ts. Daddy don't number 1. Daddy don't put action absolutely everywhere. There's a little too much action at times in between dialogue. It breaks up the flow and speed of reading. Action thrillers like this need more action in general because they are heavy on plot, but the formatting for the dialogue could have better serviced the flow of reading. Also, don't make the action too long. On pages 60 to 63, when Anderson just got his eyes changed out and he's trying not to get scanned by the spiders, the action is a bit too long-winded in this part, and reformatting it could have served to make it a better read, a faster read, thus building more suspense. So there's this moment where like it's when the spiders are crawling through the apartment building or whatever, and he's like trying to hide because he can't get his eyes like exposed or whatever. On the page, the suspense is just not there because it takes so long to read through all the action. When that's a scene when it's like beep, 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 oh, what's going to happen? You need to have the action mimic the energy of that.
Yeah.
Which he does in a lot of ways in the script, but it was just so far into the story that, I found it to be a slog. Having a lot of action is fine and sometimes necessary, but when you have a lot, just keep in mind ways to make it easily digestible and fun. Daddy don't number 2. Daddy don't tell us exposition we've already seen and heard explained multiple times. There's a few moments in the script where characters tell each other exactly what we've already seen happen. I get that they're telling them this because the other character doesn't know, but as a reader, there is no mystery. As a writer, it's up to you to keep the story interesting and moving. Interesting and moving, like moving forward. Don't tell us exposition multiple times unless it's justified and works to service the story. For example, on page 90, when Lisa is explaining to Enos what happened with the disc, how Paul got the fake one, then how Ed got the real one, we've seen Anderson discover this information already, and to be honest, we could have just left the scene there, knowing that Lisa is going to explain this to him, then cut away knowing that Enos was going to know all of that. Like,
right.
That's a little bit convoluted. That wasn't the best. I didn't write that the best out. Like it was a little confusing for me to hear. Sorry, script babies. But like, there's a few moments in this where we've seen this disc be passed off so many times and where it's gone and who faked it and who did this and who did that. We've seen it so many times expressed to different characters that when it happens for a third time, I was like, oh my God, I don't need to know this. Yeah. Like we know this exposition, and sometimes that's necessary, but you got to find another creative way to tell it.
Agreed.
And Daddy don't number 3. Daddy don't make the villain's motivation seem hazy. Whitwer is ultimately the mastermind of the plan to frame Anderson for his murder. However, and correct me if I'm wrong, we don't ever get a solid reason why, other than that he wants to prove the system is infallible, why he would do this other than that, which he ultimately does. But where does that leave us? Anderson doesn't really have an arc. No one does, and it leaves the story feeling a bit pointless.
Fair.
So as much as we love this, I did have some real criticism for it too.
Absolutely.
But it led to a really well done film. And a very interesting film that was very well thought out and very considerably done.
Absolutely. I kind of wish we could have read the script, like the shooting script. I'm curious how it would, like, would the action be similar in its flavor?
I was wondering that too. I will say there was a bit of a more of a challenge than I previously thought there would be with having the script be so different. But it made me more mindful with my notes and really made me dig in to be like, okay, well, what are the, changes? Although there's so much that we can never know in the development process. There's so many decisions. Like I'm not listening, but like I am privy to certain development conversations for this one film that's happening. And it's so interesting because we've read the script.
Yep.
And now that they're in development for it, the budget isn't as big. And so they're having to consolidate characters, make 2 people into 1 person, consolidate locations, making 3 locations into 1. And that's something that like, I knew that happened in development, but like it really has recentered it into thinking like, you can write this, but again, little things like budget and location are going to greatly affect what can actually be shown ultimately. And you're going to have to go back if you're lucky enough to be kept on as writer to then take these notes and fit it into that. So I think there's so many things previously that we were like, I wonder why that didn't make it. Maybe it's just budget or, any number of other things. So it's very interesting.
It's so true.
Well,
we did it, babe. We're back.
We did it.
We're back.
We're back. Script Babies, this is the penultimate episode in season 1 of Script Daddy. So next episode will be our finale for season 1.
Finale.
So get ready.
Get ready. Get your tissues out.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll be back.
Yeah, we'll be back.
We'll see you soon.
Okay.
We won't see. Well, I'll see you soon. You'll hear us soon. Okay. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
We want to give a huge thank you to our incredible producer, Scott Simmock, and our amazing sound mixer, Ryan Fee. We literally could not do this without either of them. So thank you, guys.